If you take a daily prenatal vitamin to ensure a healthy pregnancy, or swallow a broad-spectrum antibiotic to clear a lung infection, or take a pill that pushes a deadly cancer into remission, you are relying on the exact same scientific lineage. These entirely distinct branches of modern medicine all flow directly from the mind of one researcher. He discovered the energy molecule that powers all biological life on Earth. He built the very first chemotherapy drug, and he engineered the first tetracycline antibiotic. Yet, despite producing a resume that should have guaranteed multiple Nobel Prizes, he died at 53. The local newspapers did not even bother to print an obituary. His name is Yellapragada Subbarow, and the fact that you likely do not recognize it highlights a glaring omission in our history. The man who drafted the blueprints for the modern pharmacy was meticulously erased by the very institutions he enriched. Subbarow was born in 1895 in a rural Indian village. He watched his father and two brothers waste away and die from tropical sprue, a brutal intestinal disease. That trauma gave him a singular focus. He would spend his life hunting down disease. By 1922, he arrived in Boston. He was 27 years old, spoke broken English, and carried money he had borrowed from his future father-in-law. He found his way into Harvard Medical School's biochemistry PhD program. He took a position under a senior researcher named Cyrus Fisk, working exhausting hours for little pay. In 1926, the two of them isolated something remarkable, a molecule called adenosine triphosphate, ATP. Before Subbarow, scientists mistakenly believed muscles ran on glycogen. ATP proved them wrong. It is the literal energy currency of biology, the biological battery that powers every single cell in every living organism on Earth. He spent the next 14 years churning out discovery after discovery. And every single year, Harvard's biochemistry department voted to deny him tenure. They had a strict, unwritten rule against promoting foreigners, and they were not going to make an exception for an Indian scientist. The academic wall extended into his own lab. Out of intense professional jealousy, Fisk began hiding Subbarow's findings. Years later, other scientists had to entirely rediscover work that Fisk had actively buried in a desk drawer. Subbarow had mapped the molecular fuel of life, only to watch his own career suffocate under the prejudice of the American scientific establishment. In May 1940, Harvard denied him tenure for the final time. Subbarow walked away and accepted a job as the director of research at Lederle Laboratories in New York. Free from Fisk's shadow, he immediately targeted the disease that killed his family. He successfully isolated folic acid from liver and engineered a way to mass-produce it. Overnight, tropical sprue and a massive swath of fatal birth defects became entirely preventable. That single breakthrough caught the attention of Dr. Sidney Farber in Boston. Farber had a theory. If rapidly dividing cancer cells require folic acid to multiply, a chemical that blocks folic acid might starve the cancer to death. Subbarow's team went into the lab and synthesized exactly that, a folic acid blocker called aminoterrin. In December 1947, Farber administered the new compound to an 8-year-old boy dying of leukemia. Within weeks, the cancer cells vanished. No one had ever achieved remission using a pill. Subbarow had just invented chemotherapy. He did not stop to celebrate. The very next year, his lab formulated ariomycin. It was the first broad-spectrum tetracycline antibiotic, capable of destroying cholera, typhus, and severe pneumonia, bacteria that even penicillin could not scratch. Driven by the early deaths of his father and brothers, Subbarow spent exactly 8 years quietly building the foundation for modern pharmaceutical science. Then, on August 8, 1948, Subbarow suffered a massive heart attack in his New York home. He died at 53. The American medical establishment offered absolute silence. There were no grand university memorials, no prestigious medical journals dedicated issues to his memory. Decades later, his own colleague, George Hitchings, won a Nobel Prize for medical advancements built directly on Subbarow's foundational research. Subbarow himself was never even nominated by the Nobel Committee. Today, India remembers him. His childhood home is a museum, and Indian medical schools teach his story. But in the West, the universities and hospitals that lean entirely on his discoveries leave his name off the syllabus. Yet tens of millions of people swallow methotrexate to survive severe autoimmune diseases. Millions of healthy babies are born because of folic acid supplements. Thousands survive severe bacterial infections every day by taking doxycycline. Institutions can choose who they put on their plaques. They can hide research, deny tenure, and refuse to print an obituary. But they cannot erase the simple fact that millions of people are walking around today, alive, because of Yellapragada Subbarow.